Hi, friends of cocktails! Whiskey sour is a true classic cocktail that has it all. It's boozy, sour, sweet, and if you add the foaming agent, the perfect silky texture. So today we'll go over the long history of the king of sour cocktails. Then we'll make 3 very different but fun whiskey sour recipes. First, a whiskey sour that is stirred. Next, one that has a sugared rim. And finally, a modern version, a super whiskey sour, if you will. Do I expect them all to taste amazing? Not really, but I find and try out some of these old recipes, so you don't have to. Booze ain't cheap these days. At the end of the day, we'll make these episodes with your support, so thank you. If you enjoy watching and learning about the classic cocktails as well, hit the like button and make sure you subscribe. Now if you're ready for some whiskey sours, it's cocktail time. The first known written recipe for a sour appears in Jerry Thomas's 1862 The Bartender's Guide, which has recipes for a brandy sour, a gin sour, and a Santa Cruz, which is a rum sour. No whiskey, but the professor did suggest putting the lemon skin in a glass for sours. The first time a whiskey sour is mentioned in print was on January 4, 1870, in the Waukesha Plain Dealer in Wisconsin. On page 2, we find a story of a man who has a drink just taken out of his hand, so he quickly ordered another whiskey sour. Even then, it was popular enough that this sentence needed no explanation. According to David Wondrich, the popularity of sour cocktails, especially the whiskey version, would continue to grow from that point on. And with the growing popularity, there were also many new variations of the sour, with bartenders adding different spirits, syrups, liqueurs, floats, whole eggs, and even cream. The most famous of them was a whiskey sour with a float of red wine, first named the Continental Sour, Southern Whiskey Sour, and finally New York Sour, but that's for another episode. Looking through old cocktail books, there were plenty of whiskey sour recipes to choose from, made in many different ways, so I could easily make more than 3 today. But I learned what happens if you go a little too far, from the famous Hollywood actor and the star of Bounty Law, Rick Dalton.
Fucking whiskey sour, I couldn't stop at fucking 3 or 4, mate! Wow!
So, 3 it is, and the first one will actually be stirred. It comes from the 20th Century Guide for Mixing Fancy Drinks. The whiskey sour is made with a syrup, lemon juice, whiskey, stirred and strained, with fruit and a dash of seltzer water added as well. The earliest recipes use sugar, as we'll see later, but bartenders around the turn of the century would often use gum syrup. I've shown you how to make it on the channel, but you also know I always recommend Liber & Co. syrups, if you opt for an easier approach. They say their classic gum syrup is the most versatile cocktail syrup. It uses gum arabic, an all-natural resin and emulsifier found in the African acacia tree, to add sweetness, silkiness, and blend all ingredients in a cocktail. Perfect for a whiskey sour with no egg white. As for the whiskey mentioned in the recipe, I found a bottle of Hermitage Rye Whiskey online. It's dated back to 1908, with a value of $22,000. So I'm just using Rittenhouse Rye, which has the same ABV. Cool? Cool. As per the 20th Century Guide for Mixing Fancy Drinks, start with filling the mixing glass, 2/3 full of fine ice. To that, add 1 teaspoonful of syrup. I'm using a 2-to-1 gum syrup. Follow that with an equal amount, 1 teaspoonful of lemon juice, fresh of course. And lastly, the base, 1 wine glass of whiskey. No Hermitage, but Rittenhouse will do. Then, again, as per the recipe, stir well and strain into a clear glass with fruit. I'm guessing lemon is meant here, for a little extra citrus aroma. Then dash with seltzer water and serve. Cheers! You get rye and citrus on the nose, and the sweet and sour components are balanced, but a little lost with the whiskey and soda water. Because of the way we made it, it doesn't have the texture and body you'd expect when ordering this drink, but things might have been different in 1900. So when was egg white first added to a whiskey sour? In 1922, Robert Vermeer wrote in his cocktails how to mix them. A few drops of white of egg, improve all sours. He probably didn't sound like that, but bartenders were adding egg whites into cocktails long before. Even before the whiskey sour finally appeared in the 1887 reprint of the Bartender's Guide. 4 years before that, in 1883, Patsy McDonagh published his Barkeeper's Guide. And on page 11, there's the whiskey sour, to be made as its more popular cousin, but substituting whiskey for brandy. But there's also the frosted sour, which is made with sugar, water, lemon juice, the white of an egg, and bourbon whiskey. It's to be served in a glass rimmed with lemon juice and dipped in powdered sugar. That sounds like a predecessor of the modern whiskey sour. We have all the ingredients here, so let's make the frosted sour. Let's start by preparing the frosted glass. Moisten the rim with lemon juice and dip it in powdered sugar. Tap off the excess and start making the cocktail. Like the recipe tells us, let's fill a large bar glass 1/3 full of cracked ice. followed by 1 tablespoonful of bar sugar. That's just a real fine white sugar. To help it dissolve, 1/2 wine glass of water, and to slightly balance the sweetness, 5 or 6 dashes of lemon juice. Dashes for everything except bitters were quite big in those days, so I'm adding half an ounce or 15 ml. It's not written in the recipe, but David Wondrich tells us that an educated opinion preferred to stir the sugar directly into the citrus juice. Then we add the white of an egg, careful not to break any shells into the drink. And finally, a pony wine glass of bourbon whiskey. Yellowstone became world's first national park just 11 years before this recipe was published, so I think it's fitting to use the Yellowstone bourbon. Then you shake as hard as you can, since the recipe doesn't call for a dry shake, and strain into the prepared frosted glass. For garnish, use sliced fruit in season, as it is said to improve the flavors of sours. Since we already have a sugared rim, I'm not going overboard here. A lemon will do. And it's more than enough to give it a lovely citrus aroma. The texture from the egg white is nice and rich, but the sweetness cuts through it. Even the 93 proof Yellowstone bourbon has a difficult task of holding up to that. The lemon is in there, but overpowered. Maybe I should have gone with bigger dashes. If this was the preferred ratio back then, I'm glad flavor preferences have changed and evolved. There have been 25 US presidents since this recipe was published. So let's see how far the whiskey sour has come in that time. Let's make a version with super juice and super syrup. Lemon super juice will give it an extra kick of freshness, and super syrup combines the sweetener and the foaming agent. So there's no need for egg white. For whiskey I'm using Maker's Mark small batch bourbon, and the flavor enhancer, saline solution. I'll leave links to super juice and super syrup episodes, so you can make this version with me. Chill the shaker, and let's go. As always, if you serve this over a large clear ice block, make sure it's tempering as you start making the cocktail. I start with 2 ounces or 60 ml of bourbon. I like Maker's Mark as a solid mid-range option. Follow that with our first super ingredient, lemon super juice, 3/4 of an ounce or 22.5 ml. The essential oils from the peels will give it an extra citrus kick, and an equal amount, 3/4 of an ounce or 22.5 ml of super syrup. The right amount of sweetness and no egg white, but will still have the silky texture and the rich foam we expect on a whiskey sour. And finally, 2 drops of 20% saline solution to brighten all the flavors. Give this a hard shake with ice first, to chill and dilute. Then discard the ice and follow with a dry shake. This works best when using super syrup and creates a really nice and stable foam. Double strain over a large ice block. And garnish with a small coin of lemon peel, more for the looks than anything. There's no need to mask the egg white smell, and super juice gives this plenty of citrus aroma on its own. All the flavors are perfectly balanced. The foam doesn't just look good, but gives the cocktail the silky texture we've all come to love when sipping on a well-made whiskey sour. Like I said in the intro, boozy, sour, sweet. What's not to love? Of the three, this one is of course the best. But I'd love to hear how you make your whiskey sour. Do you make it with rye or bourbon? Do you add egg white, or do you just go for the New York sour? And if there's a cocktail you'd like to see old recipe from, write that in the comments. Cheers, friends of cocktails.